Talk about the mummification in the ancient Egyptian society, and to shed light on this very interesting topic, we have with us in the studio Dr. Basam الشماع, the lecturer in Egyptology and the tour guide. Hello, Dr. Basam, and thank you for being with us on Nile TV.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is an extremely interesting topic, and I remember back at school, I'm sure Maisty as well, we used to talk about mummification, and I remember there was a lot of procedures. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, mummification, let's start with one of those enigmatic subjects in the world of Egyptology. Mummification is an expression that whenever you say it, ancient Egypt comes in mind anywhere in the world, even though mummification took place in other civilizations as well. So,
but
yes.
Even in the American movies, always
no, do not make reference to those.
American movies are fun, but do not believe them. And as a matter of fact, now you remind me, because I had a lady tourist once, very, very nice lady from the United States, and she said, I'm not going to enter the temple with you, Mr. Bassam. I said, why? She said, because scarabs will eat us. Because she watched the movie when the scarabs...
Even the old movies in the American
I was telling her
cinema.
Scarabs are beetles, my dear. Beetles do not eat people. So anyway, so movies like that, we might laugh, but some other people will believe.
And
so
they make us look so strange. They make us look like Egyptian coolies.
And it's all right, exactly, and it's all wrong.
It's all wrong.
So, but talking about mummification, like in Egypt, the word mummy is an interesting word. The expression itself is interesting because...
But always it's scary for certain people when we talk about mummies and mummification. It's a bit
but
scary.
When you talk, what I'm trying to say is, what is a mummy? What is this word? Al-mumia. Al-mumia is also in other languages like Spanish and all of this, and Portuguese and all of this. Al-mumia. What's al-mumia? Where did we get mumia from? This definitely is not originally Arabic, because if you... But actually, a very interesting thing somebody studied, and they found out that there was a word in Persian, and this word is related to the tar, to the black tar. And when the Arabs looked at the mummies and they found like a black layer on the mummies, they thought this is tar. So they called it tar. They called it the black tar, which is al-mumia. Alif Lam is the Alif Lam the in Arabic, and mumia is originally tar. So other theories as well. But the interesting thing here is this. Why did ancient Egyptians mummify? I mean, what's the point of mummifying your body?
So that they can go to the other world. I know.
Okay, so here is a good answer.
And
to go to the other world,
were the
but you have to
all,
add to go to the other world in one piece.
But were all the ancient Egyptians mummified, sir, or only the king and queens and the high-ranking people?
This is because everybody should reach to the other side and to reach to the world of what is under and go through the journey and all of this in one piece. And your body will be given life again, so you need your body to be as perfect as possible.
Yes.
And that is mummification's job.
Not so pretty, but in one piece.
Okay, because
we
you're
are seeing footages also for
now,
mummies.
Okay. So the interesting thing is this. Why would you like to take your body to the other side? Because you need to take 5 things with you to the afterlife. The soul, the spirit, the shadow, the name, and the body.
How can they take the shadow, sir?
Because everybody has got a shadow. If you don't have a physical existence, you don't have a shadow, and vice versa. So that was very smart of the ancient Egyptians to add the shadow. But the interesting thing is this. You mummify if you can afford it, because mummification was a very expensive thing, like papyrus. Papyrus was a very expensive... Not yourself and I wouldn't afford papyrus in ancient Egypt, because papyrus was expensive. Honey was expensive, so not everybody can eat honey in ancient Egypt because honey is expensive, and so on. So mummification was expensive. So unless you have the financial aid to do this and to go to the mummification and to go to the embalmers and tell them, I would like to mummify my grandfather, he died yesterday, and here, do the 5 stars operation.
So it was
because also mummification was stages and was levels. So you can, if you are rich, you are going to put something, so you are going to add more stuff to the mummy. If you are less rich or poor,
also have your garments and your jewelry.
Your linen bandages will be better. The magical spells will be placed better, right? You pay for what you pay for what you get. Now, the interesting thing is, answering your question is, what if you don't have this financial aid? Well, your body will be placed under the ground in an oval pit, and it will dry up by the dry desert sand. And it works. And if you go to the British Museum, you will watch the ginger. They call him the ginger because he got red hair. The ginger, an ancient Egyptian man who his body was mummified perfectly, perfectly till today, because, and there was no chemicals whatsoever added. Nothing was added, no bandages, nothing. It was just placed in the dry sand of the Sahara.
But he wasn't mummified because he couldn't afford it.
But at that time, you will never know because there was no writing. So you never know if it was rich or it was no mummification at that time.
But we're assuming because he didn't
Because
get
he didn't get
the natural,
the
five-star
operation.
The five-star operation
Okay.
that he's...
But the kings did, and the queens did, and the nobles did, because obviously they can afford it.
And their servants, so that they can take them with them.
Okay. Now, if you are mummifying, and then the linen bandages, and then the tomb, and then the coffin, and then the big tomb in, let's say, the Valley of the Kings. Let's say, Valley of the Queens, Valley of the Nobles, Valley of the Workers, you name it.
Oh,
Interesting. Yeah, interestingly enough.
Classes.
We took, when the people entered those tombs and took the mummies, and some of them were smuggled, and some of them were destroyed, and some of them were grind. That was crazy in Europe. And they grind the mummies, and they converted it into powder, and they sniffed it. And sometimes they put the powder on their skin. That's very weird, because that made them believe. They sniffed it because they felt they are going to get high. And that was a turn of time, yes. And they covered their skin because they thought that the skin is going to live forever. The body is going to live forever because the mummies lived forever from their point of view, which was totally wrong, of course. But here is a good question.
How did they have the permits to destroy
the pyramids itself? Most of the pyramids were found with no mummies.
But how were they able to get access to these mummies and destroy them?
Inside the tombs. Because one, there was no security at that time whatsoever. Two, some of which were people, adventurers, who came and they had money and they would pay and they would dig and they will be allowed to dig. Corruption. All this happened since the 1700s and the 1800s. My question is this. Did the ancient Egyptian want to be exhibited as a mummy in a museum? Here is a good question to make you think tonight. Before you go to sleep, you're in bed,
and
relaxing.
I don't want to think of mummies.
And not any ordinary mummies.
I don't think I'm going. Me and Mahesti are not the
You will
type.
love
You
it.
can think and tell us.
Yeah.
Believe me, you'll get a good dream.
With
Unlike
the
what
mummies.
you think you're going to get
With the mummies,
Call me
no.
all sorts of
tomorrow.
nightmares. I say no. I say he didn't, and she didn't want to be exhibited in a museum. So the question is, why are we putting it in museums? Now, the interesting thing is that when you read the texts on the walls of those tombs, you will notice that the ancient Egyptians have placed a curse. This is the practical name of the mummy curse, not this business of somebody something weird happened to you. No, the real word for the
But
mummy
this
formula.
curse
There was
really
a curse
exists.
for. No, of course it didn't. Of course it didn't.
But why usually we hear that there is a pharaoh
Because usually it's
curse
the
that-
Hollywood thing and what you mentioned at the beginning.
Stop
No,
watching movies.
But exactly. But the interesting thing is this: is that yes, there were magical spells that we lived in. We had a tomb. The other day I watched this. I visited a tomb, small tomb, and it's not far away from the Sphinx.
It's
And
in
he
Giza.
carved in Giza. And this man carved, to those who are going to enter my tomb, interrupt me from my eternal slumber, sleep. He will be eaten by, and he carved on the block of stone 3 animals that you will be eaten by
Which
if
is
you
very
dare
angry, man.
to enter the tomb.
He doesn't
and
want to
They
be
used to do
interrupt
this
it.
because of burglars.
Of course.
He didn't want to be
Burglars,
disturbed.
people who hate you, people who doesn't want you to continue your afterlife.
They want to be calm in
competitors,
during the journey
animals,
until
yeah,
they reach
animals,
eternity.
jackals,
to their beliefs.
lions, dogs, you name it. The 3 animals were interesting that he carved. Mesah, I'm talking hieroglyphs now, and that means a crocodile. And it's interesting
Bring it
because tamsah, mesah, very close to what we use in Arabic. Also a hippopotamus will eat you, even though we know hippopotamus, they are, as we all know them, hippopotami.
But there's
vegetarians.
no the hippos during
hippos
the
were, of course,
ancient
they were
Egyptians.
by
Of
the
course
hundreds
they
and the
were.
thousands in the River Nile. But they are vegetarians. But they will bite you. They will kill. And there is actually a king in ancient Egypt who got killed being bitten by a hippo. And the mao, or the mao, which is the lion. So a lion, a hippo, and a crocodile. So what I'm trying to say is, This ancient Egyptian wanted to be left alone, wanted his mummy to be left alone. And that's why I introduced a request at Al-Azhar Al-Sharif some weeks ago, and at مجمع البحوث الإسلامية also, the association with the best Islamic minds in our country, and they meet once a month. And I delivered that paper to also Dar al-Ifta.
So that we don't watch the mummies?
Yes, what I'm trying to say here is this, because of all what I mentioned.
Oh, but
They
so
didn't
we
want
don't
to
get
get
eaten,
let me rephrase the question.
But it will
500
help tourism.
Let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
500 years from now,
Okay.
truly, you answer this truly. Would you like somebody to pick your body, put a small iron rod inside to take a sample of the DNA,
Well,
to know how did you die?
if
Would
it's
you
going
like
to
this?
help my country and profit economically, then I'm fine with it.
So you are fine by showing dead
If-
people in glass cases.
Okay, no. No, say-
How about your grandfather?
no.
How about your father? See? So this is what I'm trying to say. It's an interesting topic. It's different, right? But every time I asked one of the most famous Egyptologists in this country once in a lecture. I stood up and I said, 500 years from now, same question I asked you. He said, of course I'm against the messing with mummies. What I'm trying to say is those people asked for respect, asked for peace, asked to be left alone. You tell me in the tombs, they are not going to be safe. In museums, they are safer.
Yeah.
Valley of the Kings was never robbed from 2011 until now. What was robbed? Museums.
Well, it's definitively a debatable issue. Let's
Yes.
put it at that.
That's right.
And thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Bessam Al-Shama'a, member of the
Bessam
previous
Al-Shama'a.
member of the Egyptian Historical Association, right? And current lecturer and tour guide.
Thank you, Rahma, for
We're
joining
going to
me
be
in the
dreaming about
breakfast.
mummies tonight?
Indeed.
Excellent.
And tell me, what did you dream with
Sure.
tomorrow? Dr. Bassam, always a pleasure to have you with us on Nile TV. And that, our dear viewers, brings us to the end of this edition of The Breakfast Show. Thank you for joining us.